Welcome to our show, Tough Talks Unlimited, co-hosted by Derek Bowles and myself, Michael Garth. In this show, we're going to hear from world-class leaders and innovators, people who are willing to have positive conversations and share their insights on tough talks to get you through tough times. Let's get started.
So first and foremost, man, I'm super excited. Coach Garland, I'm excited to have you as well. We're getting ready to have a conversation with Clay Moser. We have a long-standing history, Clay and I, goes all the way back to 2001 at Treasure Valley Community College. I think that's right, or 2000. You're going to have to clarify that for me, Clay. Which one was it?
I knew this was going to come up, but I was hoping you could clarify for me. You know what? I think it was either 0001 or 0102. Whenever. So the way I remember it, and this part's easy to Google, but I don't do it very much anymore. But the way I remember it, the year was that I was working, as you know, I was working for Isaiah Thomas in the Continental Basketball Association. Right. And he put the league in bankruptcy in February, and I know I took the job that spring.
Gotcha.
So whenever he put the league in bankruptcy, it was, I got hired at Treasure Valley like 3 months later.
Yeah.
Whatever that year was. I want to say it was 2000. Would have started 2000. I think we were together the 2001 season or the 01-02. But regardless, whatever year it was, because of you, it was one of the greatest years of my life.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot. And, I'm just excited. I'm with Coach Garland, Mike Garland, a guy who has mentored me, taught me a lot about the game, a lot about life, a lot about the world. And we're having conversations now that are important. We're calling it Tough Talks Unlimited. And so we're going to talk to you about things that may be a little bit uncomfortable. We're going to bring it to the table because we want to educate people at the same time.
Okay.
Well, Clay, tell us a little bit about your the start of your basketball career before Treasure Valley. How did it all come about?
Well, I was just a kid, and Mike, as I'd said earlier, like I'm a product of a broken home, and basketball was sports was my outlet. I was actually way better at baseball than I was at basketball, but basketball kind of became my love. And, when I was one of those kids, I grew up in a small town. I didn't grow up in a town that was even big enough to have a Boys and Girls Club or a YMCA or anything like that. You just went to the park and you went out and shoveled snow off the driveway or something, like not even our driveway. We didn't have a big enough driveway. We didn't have a basket. And so I'd go shovel the snow off of someone else's driveway and shoot in their place. And I grew up way, way before the advent of all of these personnel skills trainers, the dudes that teach you how to dribble with two balls in between your legs. Right. And all that kind of stuff. So I was just kind of out there by myself. And, I played in a non-basketball area of the world in West Central Minnesota. I was a really good high school player. I was a really average junior college player, and I was a really, really below average NAIA player. So, I don't talk much about my playing career, but I knew probably when I was probably a junior in high school that I wanted to coach for a living. And so I knew that right from the start. And then, going through my career would take up a whole show, Coach. I'm going on 40 years, which, I've had some crazy, interesting educational experiences, some good, some bad, but the common thread and the common theme has always been, you're going to run into some people that you don't care for, and then you're going to run into some people that you just love to death for the rest of your life.
Right.
And Derek's one of those for me. So, I've been a lot of places. I started out coaching at the junior college where I played. I got an unbelievable break when I was really young. I was 24 years old. I got hired at North Carolina State with Jim Valvano, and then was with him, up until some NCAA trouble hit, and then his illness, and then I kind of was, kind of then a rudderless ship for a while, because one of the things I learned early on, and I think both of you know this, and you used it earlier, Derek, with Mike being a mentor of yours, and Mike, this probably way better than I do, but in the game of high level basketball, you have to have a godfather, that will vouch for you and will hire you or get somebody else to hire you, or promote your career or promote you as a person. And one of the things I learned early on is that Coach Valvano died shortly after that, and I realized I didn't know the Godfather terminology at that time. I didn't really recognize it, but after he was gone, I realized, holy mackerel! Like, there's no one now at that level to fight for me,
right?
And for the longest time, it carried some weight that I'd been there with him, but over the course of time, as life tends to be, it stopped carrying weight. And,
right.
And frankly, I've kind of struggled to find that Godfather ever since. One that would really fight for you and support you. And as you know, like, to enhance your career and move along in your career, like, you need those guys.
Absolutely.
No question.
First of all, your mentor, Jim Valvano, was a phenomenal coach, but as I understand it, a phenomenal human being as well. And I think that was quite obvious when he was going through his illness and his fight for his life, but even more so his fight to help others survive what he has had. And it's that's paramount. It is paramount. But you spoke to, you needed that Godfather, but I'm gonna tell you something. You've done quite well without one, and that's, to make it through this business, and trust me, I know, without one is very, very difficult to do, and that speaks volumes to who you are as a man and your character.
Right.
I appreciate that. It's probably more than anything. It's just that I have this continued love affair with this game, and the competitive fire still burns deeply. I thought it might start to go away, but it hasn't. Like, everything else that burned deep inside of me is gone away, but not the will to win.
Right.
Because and then it's just such a, for those of us who've been in it, like, it's such an exhilarating business. It's such an exhilarating way to live. And my junior college coach, who was an incredible coach, and he used to always say all the time, he goes, it feels so good to win because it hurts so bad to lose. And to have that range of, because it's like, we're not in hockey, we're not in soccer, we're not in football. We don't tie. You don't get to tie.
Right.
And as players, Chuck Daly used to say this all the time. Like, players could always justify, what had happened during the course of a game. I didn't get to play enough, or I didn't get enough shots, or they're playing me out of position, or something, bad call, or something, whatever it is. A player can always justify their performance or the win or a loss in some way, shape, or form. But coaches, you only have two results.
Right.
It's only two results. Like, it's not. There's no gray area. It's either you won or you lost.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that still drives me today, because, I'm not so sure it's about striving towards winning. It's striving towards not losing. Like, don't fail. Because that feeling is so awful, and you don't like to live it, and we all have lived it, and you have to live it. Don't know how good the other side is. So,
right.
But he used to say that, and you're right about Coach Valvano, man. He was unbelievable, and he's his message is still out there, big time, strong today. You see it all over the place.
Man, and And so, you know, I love what you're saying, Clay, and obviously I'm excited to have you as a guest on our show. But I want to talk a little bit about what you're seeing out on the college level with the NIL and what you see unfolding, because I think it's important to get it from a different perspective. And so feel free to share your thoughts, man.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not at Arkansas anymore, Derek. I left there about a year ago, but I was there at the beginning of the NIL, and I was also, you know, involved in the transfer portal for 3 years.
Right.
So here's the reality. I know, you know, I don't know if you guys want to talk social issues or political issues or what the tough talk is, but the you know, like the personal talk is, I got fired in Los Angeles after 8 years with the Lakers in April of 2019. I had left North Carolina State with Coach Valvano in 1989. So I'm not so good at math, but that's 30 years.
Right.
And I had not been back in college basketball other than Treasure Valley for that.
Gotcha.
Years actually the wrong way to say it. I wasn't even there a year because I was going broke, Derek. We were both going broke, as you know. I mean, we weren't making any money. I'd bought the kids bag. I don't know if you remember this. I'd bought the kids Nike bags, you know, bags. That came out of my own. I was making, like, true talk. I was making $10,000, and I bought those kids bags. I pulled in a major favor to get them new uniforms because you remember the uniforms we had there that first year. Like
I do remember. I
go, man, and like, you know, I went into the AD. I said, you know, these kids got to feel comfortable and they got to feel some pride on what they're putting in, you know, putting on their bodies. Like you know, you look good, you play good. I said, how on earth long have you had those uniforms that you're asking me to have them wear? And then I got those, you know, I got that set of Nikes. I didn't pay for the uniforms. I did pay for the bags. So anyway, I'd gone from 1989 basically to 2019. So it'd been 30 years since I'd been in college basketball. And, you know, and clearly things had changed.
Right.
Like when I first started out, when you recruited a kid, you recruited him through the mom and dad, if there was both. And if there wasn't, whichever one there was. And usually there was like an uncle around the corner that would help the kid. There might be a guy at the Boys and Girls Club and the high school coach.
Right.
You know, now when you recruit a kid, he's got a dribbling guy and a shooting guy, and you know, some of them even have yoga people or somebody that stretches them. You know, it's amazing what's happened. The AAU guys. So not only you have to get to the AAU guy, but you have to get to several AAU guys. Right. You know, if the kid played for, you know, a big time AAU program, you're going to have to know the guy from the 14s and the 15s and the 16s and the 17s, and then you got to know the guy behind the guy, and you got to know all those people, and it just becomes overwhelming to recruit a kid. And one of the things I had told my guy, I said, like, this just, like, from a business perspective, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, we're wasting our time chasing our tails with, there's no way this kid's listening to this many people.
Right.
And if he is listening to that many people, we probably don't want him because what he's getting is a confused message. So I made it my mission to kind of find who the real guy was. And I gathered intel, and, you know, some kids, it was easy to figure out, like, who was really calling the shots. Like, is it dad? Is it the AAU guy? Is it a local mentor or whatever it is? But it, you know, and it kind of came to fruition that, like, okay, when you really boiled it down, those kids, there was maybe 2, maybe 3 people in their lives that really had influence.
Gotcha.
And the others were just fodder. They were just fluff. Right. You know, Mike, I don't know if you ran into that at all, but that's, you know, that was my experience.
Well, I only experienced, I think it was the last 3 years of my career there. And I mean, what type of lessons are we teaching these kids with all of this? You know, I was in on several meetings with Tom, and head coaches meetings with some of the most powerful head coaches in basketball, in college basketball. You know, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, Tom, Matt Painter. I mean, the list went on and on and on. And I remember long before the NIL, I remember the college coaches actually presenting to the NCAA a proposal of what to do. I mean, I think there's no question everybody was in agreement that the players should get something.
Yep.
And what they proposed was, hey, why don't we give the kids $25,000 a year? For every year they stay, they get $25,000. However, you wouldn't collect on the money until you graduated from the university. And I mean, they just vehemently opposed that. I mean, we wouldn't be here where we are today with the NIL had they listened and put that in place. But I mean, it's just a shame. When you don't have leadership, real leadership, this is how we landed where we are in the game of basketball, and in particularly in college basketball. It's just no leadership at all.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. So to your question, Derek, so there's two elements at play in terms of, and it's a cesspool, like it's become a complete cesspool.
Sure.
And it's clearly it's not that way for every single kid, and every, there's some pure intent in some situations, but there's also, this is open, so the transfer portal, take the transfer portal unto itself for a moment. The transfer portal, because of the nature of how it's been done, there is the tampering with kids that are at other schools, like out of control.
Out of control. Completely.
That the ADs and the conference commissioners and whoever it is at the NCAA, like they are either turning a blind eye, or they're naive to it, or they're frankly just not observing what's happening. I mean, I've been at games where I've heard a coach on a bench say to another kid on the floor, like, "Hey man, let me know if you hit the transfer portal."
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
And I know you're speaking the truth to that.
I
absolutely know that you are.
Yeah, and I've become kind of like, my last job, I had to become a Twitter guy, right? So, and I like, this is the goodness truth. Like when I moved to Arkansas, I had a Twitter account, but I had never sent a tweet.
Right.
And I honestly didn't know how to use it.
Right.
But when I got to Arkansas, my guy says, "Hey, you're gonna have to learn how to use this. Like we use it a lot in recruiting." So I go look up on my account, and I have 2 followers, my wife and one of my sisters. That's all I have now, and not that I care, but now I have about 6,000. Like it's close to 6,000, right? And most of that came at the University of Arkansas. So, it's I put out on Twitter, like, just as kind of as a joke, but not really as a joke. Like, who do you think's gonna execute the first trade in college basketball?
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Right.
Well, I think it already is happening. Like, guys,
I mean, it's happening, but you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
actually,
out there.
Yeah, just say, hey, we're trading, and hey, they might as well do it that way. Might as well. It would be better for everybody.
No doubt. I need a power forward. You need a point guard.
Yeah, exactly.
Both kids are my kid's miserable at my place. Plus, I don't like him, and your kid's miserable at your place, and you don't like him. So let's just do it.
Yeah.
Like you vouch for me, and I'll vouch for him.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And off we go.
Agree.
So that part's a cesspool. And the other thing that just blew my, so the transfer portal, like going way back to 1989, and Mike, you can attest to this, is like back in the day when a kid transferred out of your program,
right,
everybody looked at you like, what is wrong with your program?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Not what's going on with the kid, but like,
what's going on?
What did you do? Like, you must have really screwed that up.
To chase him out. Yeah.
And in some cases, maybe you did, but in some cases, but back in the day, if you had one transfer every like 3 years, that was a lot.
That's right.
Now, like there's all. Have you guys seen what's happening with Deion Sanders?
Oh, how he's recruiting everybody to come to his school.
No. So they had their. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, everybody's recruiting everything, but they had their spring game this past Saturday, right?
Right.
And they had more people at the spring game than they averaged during the regular season.
Yeah, I had heard.
Wow,
I heard that. Yep.
However, and the number may have changed, so don't quote me, but so this was Saturday. Today is what, Thursday?
Yeah.
After the spring game in Boulder,
right,
he immediately had 19 kids go into the transfer portal.
Oh no, I didn't realize. No, I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, it's wild. So either they didn't get to play enough during the spring game like they thought, or like they promised, or he just went to them and said, "Hey man, now seeing you in action,
right?
I don't think you're going to be good enough to be here." Like I don't know,
right?
But he had a ton of kids transfer out.
Wow.
But the thing that just blew my mind when I got there was, I said, wait a second. A kid can go into the transfer portal 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and be immediately eligible to be
immediately eligible.
Yeah,
and Derek, I'm talking like at the click of a button, so the kid's got to go in the compliance office, right?
Right.
So he goes in the compliance office. It takes 5 minutes. They fill out this thing. It says my intention is to transfer. They fill out this little thing. It's all done online. And if they want to be contacted, they put their phone number and they put their email address in there. And the very few, like select few, but these would be like the bigger time players. They won't put a number in there, or they might put like their dad's number in there or something.
Sure.
So there's a go between. But I'm sitting going, wait a second. Are you serious?
Yeah.
This kid, like, he walks into an administrator's office, clicks a button, and he's now immediately eligible to be recruited while he's still going to classes on your campus.
Absolutely.
His fob still works for your practice facility.
Absolutely.
He may still be seeing your trainer.
Right.
It's just the dumbest thing you've ever heard. And then the other one that really jumped out at me this year, although it had jumped out at me my last 2 years at Arkansas, because we went to back-to-back Elite Eights, right? Mm-hmm. And during those Elite, and this isn't just about Arkansas, this is about everybody, because of those kids being immediately eligible to go into the transfer portal and immediately be eligible to be recruited, you have people coaching and fighting in the NCAA tournament. And you're walking into practice, and you're walking into film prep, and you're walking into shoot-arounds, and you're going, come on, man, guys, we got to do this. Let's get this done. And then you go back to your room, and you're recruiting kids out of the transfer portal to replace those kids.
Exactly. Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't.
Not at all.
It's impacting the game in multiple ways.
Yeah, it's just gotten so unbelievable to me. And so I had talked to the AD there, and I said, he goes, what do you suggest? I said, well, there has to be some sort of a moratorium at certain times of the year. Like, for instance,
yes,
during the NCAA tournament should be off limits.
Right.
Like, a kid should not be able to go in, and he should not, and you shouldn't be able to contact kids while your team is still playing.
Right.
Well, Clay, Tom and I talk a lot, even though I'm retired, and it's just mind-boggling. They won't put a deadline on when a kid has to say, hey, I'm either staying at Michigan State or I'm leaving. So can you imagine trying to manage your roster right now?
Yeah.
I mean, you could be right in the fall, getting ready to start classes, and you could have 5 guys say, you know what, I'm going into the portal and leave. I mean, it's just crazy. But I'm gonna speak to something it's going to happen. And as I said, Tom gave me the opportunity to sit in on a lot of meetings. What the parents and the players don't understand now, you're getting paid. Contracts are coming. And when contracts come, now that's going to put some power back into the coach's hands. And you know what? You may have gotten paid $100,000 this year, but brother, look, you didn't perform up to our expectations. And you know what? Even to the point where I don't know if I want you here. So now there's no $100,000 deal and you're out. And on top of it, what can happen is that you may not land on your feet again. You're just out and out in the street. You have no NIL money. You have no team to play for, and you have no college degree. What's embarrassing about this whole thing is you don't hear the NCAA or any university anymore talk about degreeing these kids.
No.
And you know for a fact, because you've been in it, and I'm going to say it, and I don't care who gets mad about it. The kids that are going to be most impact look like myself and Derek, African-American kids. You're going to hear stories 10 years from now.
Right.
They're going to be on 60 Minutes. And this kid is going to be living under a viaduct or in some homeless shelter. And then he's going to say, well, everybody took advantage of me. Yet I had the $200,000, but I didn't realize that I couldn't live the rest of my life off of that money. And, I don't have a degree, and, they just use me. Well, you tried to use the system too. You tried to use the system too. And now you're where you're at. But of course, the coaches are going to get blamed when where is where all of this came about from people outside of the coaching profession.
Yep. Well, I 1000% agree with everything you just said. I'll give you this add-on, however, is that I know for a fact in more than one program of kids that I got to know either through recruiting them or coaching against them, or they've ended up in the pros where now I can have a different relationship with them. So I was coaching in the G League this last year, right? I worked for the Minnesota Timberwolves and their affiliate, the Iowa Wolves in Des Moines, Iowa. And about a third of the league, I'd either recruited out of the transfer portal, coached against in the during the course of games, or coached myself. Had kids that played for me, and so I've got a different relationship with them. So the other faction in there, and you just addressed it about people from outside the game.
Right.
There are people that are paying the NIL money,
right,
that are now going back into these administrative offices and say, I don't feel like I'm getting my money's worth out of Derek Bowles.
There you go. Right. Absolutely.
And I'm going to stop paying him.
Right. Oh, it's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. And I'm gonna just tell you, we're just heading our profession into a train wreck. And it is going to wreck. Yep. And it's going to be bad. It's going to be, worse than what happened in Ohio. It's going to be bad.
Let me throw this theory out at you and see what you guys think. Before it wrecks, and I agree it's going to wreck. It's going to wreck. There's no doubt about it. But before it wrecks, here's the other possibility of what I think could happen. And I'd be interested to bring this up to Coach Izzo and see what he thinks. But I think it's possible that a big money person at XYZ University is going to go into the chancellor. He's going to go into the athletic director. He's going to go to the board of regents and say, here's what I would like to do. I will take over the financial responsibility for the basketball program, for men's basketball or women's basketball or whatever it is. I will take over the financial responsibility for them. I will pay the coaches. I will pay the players. I will decide how well or how poorly we travel, what caliber of hotels we stay in, all these kinds of things. So you're out all the risk. So XYZ University, you're out all the financial risk for this particular program. And what I want in exchange is the power to hire and fire the coaches. I want the power to decide which players make how much money, if any.
Wow.
And I also want to share in the revenue and the profits if there are some.
Mm.
So in other words, they just simply become owners of that program.
Yeah. Own a college team.
Wow.
Own a college team.
You know what?
Wow.
I've never heard that. I am going to share that with Tom, but I'm going to tell you, you're on point. It's probably already some guys out there already that have probably proposed that to some universities, especially some smaller ones. You know, I could see where that could happen. I could see where that could happen.
Yeah, I think if they don't get their arms around it, it is going to happen.
Oh man!
And what's going to happen is that the whales are going to take over the football programs,
Right.
and some level of shark is going to take, probably not a great white shark, but more of a passive shark is going to take over the smaller programs, and then the minnows are going to take over the Olympic sports.
Right.
And because there's going to be something for everybody.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But as well as I do, Mike, is that you would run into boosters or you would run into benefactors that when they gave you some money, they all of a sudden felt like, they
have a say.
Situations like where you owed them something.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Information.
Yeah.
Access.
Something. Yeah.
Something.
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely.
That's tough talks right there. That's real. That's real.
I'll tell you this. I'm not going to tell you where it was, but I was in a situation where we had a booster that only took care of the white guys, and it was uncomfortable for a lot of people. And this particular booster also felt like he had carte blanche to get in and talk strategy with the coaches and bring up ideas like who should be playing and how many minutes they should be playing and what how we should be utilizing them and all these sorts of things. Of course, they were always his dudes, right? They were his dudes.
Right.
So I'm in a lobby of a big time hotel in a city that I won't name because you guys could actually piece this story together if you
right. I got you.
And this guy was going, he was just going. We were on our way. We were about to get on the bus and go play on ESPN on a early Saturday afternoon game.
Right.
And this guy was just yapping about stuff. And one of our assistant coaches, not me, just said, hey, that's enough. Be quiet. Be quiet.
Right.
And the guy wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop and stop. And then finally, this friend of mine my colleague stood up and punched the guy in the chest so hard, and then there was like an ottoman behind him.
Right.
I don't know if you guys ever remember the Dick Van Dyke Show, but remember when Dick Van Dyke used to fall over, like he fell over the ottoman and like
Exactly. Yeah.
that was the scene. That was the scene. Except for Dick Van Dyke self-inflicted it, and this dude had it inflicted on himself.
Oh
So,
man.
I just see and sense more of those frustration moments coming about for everybody.
Right.
Sure.
Because they haven't, the other thing is, and you, Mike, you know this, and Derek, you know this because you played for money, is that they're also like in the NBA world and even in the G League world, they have people now on staff, because it's different than the old days, but they have people on staff now that actually just handle life skills.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, how do you pay your car insurance? How do you open a checking account? How do you save 10% of your NIL money? Are you putting 10% of it away for a rainy day, or are you just spending that bugger as quick as you can get your hands on it? Well, if you've never had that kind of money, which, let's be honest, like 99% of them never have.
Sure.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they have these like lump sums of money coming in at certain times. Like, how should they be expected to know how to handle that money?
Right.
They don't.
Right. And that goes back to, Clay, what I was saying to you about the kids that are going to end up under the viaduct or in a homeless shelter or on drugs and in the street. The guy might have, at one point, some school might have gave him $400,000.
Yeah.
But if you don't count the costs to live, a lot of those kids, because of how they've been brought up, not around any money, have never heard of budgeting or putting money away. They think that, wow, I'm set. When it's just simple math. You're 20 years old and you're probably going to live to be 80. Now just divide the number into how much money you have,
right,
and see what it comes out to per year.
Right,
it becomes very minimal.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is they have to pay taxes on that money.
No question.
So let's say you are getting $400,000 in one fiscal year.
Sure.
From January 1 to December 31. $400,000 immediately they're going to take 35%, because now you've got yourself in the 35% tax bracket.
Yes.
Okay, so 35% right off the top is gone.
Right.
Then if the smarter kids will have someone helping them, which they can do now by rule, and they should, they may have an attorney, they might have an agent, in some situations, even the big time agencies are involved.
Yeah.
Like they have to have some special certification or whatever. But they have, don't quote me here, but even the monster agencies have gotten involved with this to a degree.
Sure.
Particularly with the, what are projected to be the one and dones and the 5-star kids and those kind of things. And, so, they're not doing, they don't do that for free.
Exactly.
And then, you go get yourself a nice whip.
Exactly.
Exactly. All of a sudden that 400,000 is like, you're back where you started with. And all you really wanted was some money to take a girl out on a date, right?
Exactly.
Buy some toothpaste. So it's a mess. The portal's a cesspool. The NIL has gotten away. And now, as you guys have seen, I think they've actually are about to implement a date where a kid has to say I'm in or I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It would vary for each sport because each sport's calendar is different.
Yeah.
However, to me, it's what the NCAA does, and they've always done, is they just knee-jerk react to shit that comes up. Sorry.
Exactly.
And they didn't really have a well thought out plan, and now they're trying to walk all this back. I mean, Congress is involved, and the NCAA's come out, and now there's a new head of the NCAA, and they're coming back and say, well, that's not really what we meant. And
yeah, of course, yeah.
now all of a sudden you sound like crooked politicians. Like
exactly, that's not what we meant. Of course,
that's not really what we meant.
Yeah, but all along, Clay, and you know this, coaches were telling them what was going to happen.
No doubt.
All along, and some of the smarter ADs, everybody was telling them what was going to happen. But what do we mean? Well, there were people telling you what was going to happen. So don't come back and say that.
Yeah, I was listening to a sports talk show the other day, Mike, here in the South, and one of the guys on the radio show used a phrase that I'd never heard before, but I thought it was great. And he said, like they were talking basically about the same things that the three of us are talking about right now.
Right.
He says, well, he goes, you always have to keep in mind is that there's the rank and file and the people that are living it every day. He said, but those decisions are made by the people that starch and iron their underwear.
Right.
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 It's a great point.
That is exactly. I thought it was a great way to say it.
That's great.
And we all know who they're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
everybody does.
They exist.
Everybody does.
Yep. In every school, in every conference office, in every everywhere.
Right.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, what's shocking to me is what the information you shared today about Deion Sanders. And he's supposed to be the hottest thing out there in terms of all these kids, wanting to play for him. And 19 guys just out, it's amazing.
Yeah, like I don't know if you guys have lost me. I'm gonna look at this. So I don't know. I haven't researched it enough to know what happened after that Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But here you go. Colorado players in transfer portal. Wave of Buffaloes. Deion Sanders continues culling his Colorado herd with player exodus, it says. And then, why is Deion Sanders? This is on USA Today. Why is Deion Sanders losing so many players this week at Colorado?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you and I both know, Clay, why he's losing them.
Yeah.
Hey, different deal. He's going to be disciplined. He's going to be on them. I mean, I watch his every morning. I get up and I watch his meetings and what's being said and what's being expected. And I kept saying to myself, I wonder how many of these guys are going to actually adhere to this for the next 3 or 4 years or however long they're at Colorado. It's just not going to happen.
Yep. Have you guys, Mike, you probably did this when you were still coaching. Like, do you ever access the website basketballreference.com?
No, I haven't.
So it's free.
Uh-huh.
So you just go, there's a pro version and there's a college version.
Okay.
And, when I have my professional basketball hat on, you go, and also when I had my college hat on recruiting guys, if you go look up a certain kid, and clearly not all this way, but you will see several players that have played. By the time they're done with their college career, they'll play at 4 different universities.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
I was going to mention that earlier, but there are guys, 4 different schools.
4 different schools.
4 different schools.
Now, I don't, nothing indicates that won't continue to happen. Part of it is the COVID year. We do have to factor that in.
Sure.
But I think now this train is heading so fast downhill on the tracks that it's going to be hard to get it stopped. But I'm with you. Like, they have to get it stopped.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's gonna. I tell you, it's going to be bad when it crashes. When the wreck comes, there's going to be a lot of casualties.
Yeah.
A lot.
Man.
It's the other thing, Mike, and you're probably and Derek, I know you're going through it with your own kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the recruitment side, is who's getting squeezed out you have your 5 stars and you have your, let's say there's another, like for the highest levels now, there's maybe another 40 to 50 kids.
Right.
That the universities will look at and say, hey, we'd like to have this kid.
Mm-hmm.
But for everybody else, Derek, as a dad, and I've got a son who wants to play in college. I've got a daughter who wants to play in college volleyball. The freshmen, the incoming freshmen are getting squeezed out.
Absolutely.
And you know who else is getting squeezed out worse than that is the JUCO kids.
No question.
Yeah.
No question.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Because everybody recruits the portal first. And then they may recruit high school kids, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And especially guys that are new coaches, just took over a program.
Oh, they got
to try to get as many experienced players as they can.
They have to. They feel like they have to.
Right.
Yeah, it's not unlike taking over a professional coaching, like an NBA job. Some of these jobs you're taking over because it's a good program and that guy got a better opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them you're taking over a job because the guy didn't do a good job, or there's no history there, or there's no bloodline there.
Right.
And you're just taking over a place that's hard. It's hard to win there.
Exactly.
And you guys know which place I'm talking. There's some place that could be the best coach the world has ever seen, and you cannot win there.
You're not.
Right.
You're not winning there.
You're not going to win.
I was having this conversation with a friend of mine just the other day, actually just 2 days ago, and we were looking at a prominent coach who's just been hired, and and again, I don't want to tell you who it is because it would be easy to track, but he's taken over, pretty significant historic program, and they were terrible. And that's why the job became open in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were looking it up, and I said, I haven't really heard anything about him in the transfer portal and, what's happening there. So I went and looked it up, and he's only gotten 2.
Mm.
And I told my friend who's never been in college basketball, I said, but he's a colleague of mine in professional basketball. I said, you know what? Like 2's not going to be enough.
Right.
No.
Like he needs to get 5, maybe 7 different dudes in there.
Right.
Because the guy that was there was a pretty good coach.
Exactly. And getting it done.
Yeah.
Because of the culture and the whole deal.
Yeah. Man. One of my great stories about Coach Valvano when I was with him is he was at Iona at the time, and the Penn State job came open.
Yep.
And as we all know, like Penn State's never been a historically good basketball program.
Absolutely.
They're phenomenal at women's volleyball. They have been phenomenal at football. They're still really solid in football, but they've had a hard time getting back, to the top of the mountain since the situation, whenever that happened, the unfortunate thing that was happening there. But Jim was saying that, so he went in for the interview and they had the lineup of people who starched and ironed their underwear, and he was addressing them. They had made him put on a Penn State jacket with the emblem on it. Like he had to wear that at the interview.
Wow.
Yeah. So he had to take his own. And back in those days, remember, we all remember this. Like in those days, you put on a suit and tie when you went to an interview, man.
Exactly.
But they made him he was dressed that way. They asked him to take his jacket off and put on the blazer jacket. So they do that, right? And then they get into the conversation of how good the players are that are coming back, and what are your plans with this? And we have 9 guys coming back or whatever. And he said to them, and he said, I know it cost me the job, but he said, why on earth would I want 9 guys back from a team that just want 7 and 21?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
He goes, I'm friends with the guy you just fired. He's a great coach.
Right.
Because you need better players here.
Right.
So
Exactly.
stop talking to me about these kids that are such great players.
They're
Right.
not. They're
Right.
not.
No
They're not.
question. No
Yeah, 'cause
question.
I think the three of us on this call are probably pretty good coaches. Probably. Maybe. But probably. We've never won when we haven't had good players.
Right.
No
Absolutely.
question.
Absolutely.
That's
No
not
gonna happen.
question.
It's not gonna
Well,
Because Mike, like when coaches can really talk real to themselves, you can do some dumb things as a coach. And coaches are smart, but there's stress and there's stressful moments where you might make a mistake and you might make the wrong substitution. You might call the wrong play,
Right.
and all of a sudden, one of those great players bails your butt out.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
Man.
if you're real with yourself, you go and usually because it happens so quick, as like you'll make a decision, and before it's done getting out of your mouth, you go, "That was a mistake."
Yep.
You speak right to some stuff that happened to me when I was a head coach at Cleveland State, and I remember being so frustrated. I called Tom and I said, "Man," I said, "what am I doing wrong? I mean, we're losing 1 and 2-point games, 3-point games. We had a game 1 and we can't finish it." And I said, "Man, what is this?" I said, I'm beside myself. I'm not doing a good job here." And he says, hey, dummy, look, listen, you have to have players to finish game. He says, hey, think back to the games we won, Mateen or Morris Peterson or somebody would pull us through at the end. It wasn't our coaching, it was them. And that's true. It's so true.
Man.
It's I can't even remember which game I was watching, but it had come up where I think it might have been her. You know who it was? It was Brian Dutcher in the Elite Eight when he didn't take the timeout, right?
Right, I remember that.
And then he made the quote on national TV, clearly facetiously, that I didn't have any plays left, so I just didn't call a timeout. Which is an incredibly humble thing for him to say.
Absolutely.
He's making it about the players, but some people took him literally that how can a guy not have any plays left?
Right.
And they believe that. They believe it.
And they believe it, right? And what he was trying to do is just shine the light on his kids.
Exactly.
Which is the right thing to do.
Right.
But again, now I've become this Twitter dude. Like we have this kid, Jalen Williams, that played for us at Arkansas with Oklahoma City. He goes, you're a Twitter troll now. That's what he calls me. He goes, you're always trolling on stuff. So I just put out this tweet and I said, for those of you who don't know, here's how it works. So San Diego State's in a situation where they need a basket to win the game.
Right.
If he doesn't take a timeout and they score, he's going to look like a genius.
Right.
If he doesn't take a timeout and they don't score, then people are going to say, why on earth didn't you take a timeout?
Exactly.
Right.
And on the flip side, if he takes a timeout and they score, he's a genius. And if he takes a timeout and they didn't score, he's going to be a little like, why did you take that timeout? Why didn't you just let him go?
Right.
So at the end of the day, to your point, Coach Izzo's point, everybody's point is that neither one is wrong.
Right.
And now it's just a matter of whether or not the kid is good enough to make the play for you. That's what it comes down to. Neither one's wrong. Whether you take a timeout or you don't take a timeout, neither one's wrong.
No, it's not.
But you're ultimately going to be judged on the result.
Absolutely.
So you're right, and we've all had them, and we all haven't had them, where you get in a situation where you go. And Derek will tell you, like we were fighting at this place, Treasure Valley Community College, Mike. They've been, and even to this day, Derek, I think at the time we were in there, they'd been to the postseason like twice in their history, right?
Gotcha.
And and I took the job for reasons that, like, I'd just gotten divorced and my daughter was living in Boise. I was trying to stay close to her, and I'm in my office. And if you remember, my office is about as big as big square on the screen, right? I'm in there watching film of the conference games from the year before, and the AD wanders in. He goes, and by that point, and I don't think you'd come around yet. By that point, I'd seen the kids that were returning, and I knew which recruits I was going to get and all that kind of stuff. And so I knew kind of what talent level I had. Watching,
Right.
and Mike, as you know, like, this was CSI, and Utah Valley was a JUCO at then.
Right.
NC State was in the league. Snow College, Salt Lake Community College.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this film, and the AD wanders into my office and basically stands in the doorway because there's nowhere for him to sit. And I said, he goes, "What do you think?" And I said, "What do I think?" I said, "What I think is we have literally hardly any chance to win a game at all." And then, but Derek will tell you. Do you remember this? Derek? Do you remember that Treasure Valley was, when we got there, was 0-40 against Utah Valley?
Yeah, I do remember that.
0-40.
I do remember that. Utah Valley State.
This is like when I was talking earlier about it, like there's certain places you can't win. Like, that's one of them, man. Like, it's just you couldn't win there, but it was fun. But anyway, we go to Utah Valley. They're playing in the same building they play in now. It's like nice facility. And they have like 40,000 students, for God's sake. Like, it's enormous. And and then they jumped straight from the JUCO ranks to the Division I ranks. Like, they're one of the Dixie State did the same thing. We had them at Utah Valley. We had them. And then the officials woke up and go, "Hey, wait a second. They're not supposed to beat them." Guess what?
That happens a lot.
Yeah. Guess what? You're not going to beat them either.
Yeah.
So, but then at home, we beat them.
Yeah. It was
great.
It was good.
Remember Sheyu Duni went nuts.
Oh, he did. He
went crazy.
He did. Out of Minnesota, he put on the show.
Yeah, I'd gotten this kid out of Minneapolis South High School. His name was Sheyu Duni. He coaches now at McAllister College on the women's side.
Okay.
And I still talk to him, and he's got children, and like, it's phenomenal. Like, it's the coolest story ever. But he went crazy. So everybody there was having a hard time pronouncing his name, so everybody just called him Shu. Remember that, Derek?
Yeah. Okay.
So all the students called him Shu. So he is going nuts. And we look up, and the students, whatever students were there, and the baseball team was there. Like, we had a pretty decent crowd, if I remember right. And people started taking their shoes off in the crowd. They're holding their shoes. So the coach of that team is Jeff Reinert, who was at the College of Southern at CSI now, and they were number one in the country for quite a while.
Yeah.
And every time I see him, he brings that game up.
No. I went and saw him, just so you know, at CSI, and I talked to him, and I reminded him about the time that we beat him at Treasure Valley, and he just started laughing. Man.
Yeah, it made him. When we left there, Treasure Valley was 1-41 against Utah Valley.
Well, Clay, we appreciate you so much, man. You've been an unbelievable guest. I just remember us playing noon ball and you hitting jump shots. That's what I remember. I think about our time playing noon ball at Treasure Valley. And I just appreciate you so much, man. And you're just an unbelievable person, unbelievable friend. And we appreciate having you on the show.
Well, I remember those noon ball games too. And I was a lot skinnier then because I was able to burn off some calories. But Mike, you probably will agree with this without having even been there. So Derek was by far the best player in the noon ball game.
Right.
If you put him in a scouting report, however, part of your scouting report would be like last resort passer.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt, man. No doubt.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny.
He loved to score that ball. I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I can attest to that.
No doubt. Well, listen, if I can ever help you guys in any way, you know where to reach me.
Well, this has been great, and you've already helped us quite a bit.
Absolutely.
We look forward, Clay, to having you on the show once again.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be next time. Let's talk politics and society, because I got some things that aren't sitting well with me. So
well, I would love that conversation, because that's the name of our show, Tough Talks.
cool.
Tough talks.
Let's do that the next time.
All
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
Talk to you later. Say hi to your families.
Yep, we will.
Bye bye.